Well, hello, everybody. We are back again with another exciting edition of You're Just Stupid, which is the podcast that makes you smarter and stupider at the same time. I'm Ray, aka El Presidente de Stone, and I have my co host here, Renee, aka the Human Laxative.
Guys, real quick, I just want to give a quick testimonial. Sorry, early episode ad. Ray and Renee's old timey laxatives work. Ray, you know what I did about a few minutes before this after I finished listening to us talk?
I do know, but our listeners don't know, so please enlighten them.
I took a shit. Thus, it works, guys. Trust me, it works. You listen to Ray and Renee long enough, you're going to want to shit yourself.
We have a laxative effect to our voices.
That's actually going to be my new pickup line. Hey, baby, you want to go home tonight with the man who's going to has a voice that makes you want to shit yourself? It's amazing, Ray, that you mentioned Stone, the country you founded. It's almost like we planned it, but we didn't.
No, we had no idea at all.
Guess what we're doing today, kids? We're going back to Stone, guys. We have an update. Ray, would you like to tell us how Stone's doing?
Here's the thing with Stone. So Stone is doing pretty well, but as would be expected, things are happening a lot slower than is anticipated because we are all stoners here at Stone.
Oh, I thought we were going to go with the subtle route and say we were busy with our agricultural products. But yeah, if we're going to come out and say, yeah, everyone in Stone is a stoner, yeah.
You know, there's a lot of silly movies being watched and Taco Bell being eaten, but that's pretty much the only thing that's happening right now. Taco Bells are the number one food chain in Stone right now. I have created this beautiful palace at Stone, and I've kind of been just chilling in it and letting my minions swarm me when necessary.
Okay, that sounds awesome. So you spent a lot of the country's GDP on this palace, on
Hmm.
developing the Stone cinema. So
Hmm.
movies are a main export. Sounds like agricultural products are a main export. Okay.
Very much so.
So, out of curiosity, have you spent much time in the United Nations since you found Stone at all?
In the United Nations, no, they have not let us be a part of
See,
them
that
yet.
that's a problem because if you had attended any of the meetings, you would know that your neighbors Serbia and Croatia, who were have a dispute over the land that you have, are a little upset with you and your all the residents of Stone, all the Stone, all the stoners as we call them.
We don't really know what it's like to be upset in Stone. We're all just chilling.
Yeah, and so they're kind of thinking about declaring war against y'all, and that's what today's episode is about.
Stop
Yeah,
it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You need to raise an army. I'm going to teach you how to. I taught you how to start your own country. Now I'm going to teach you how to raise your own army.
All right, let's do it. Do we have to stop smoking weed?
No, well, see, like today's episode is also going to be called basically mercenaries because I was going to ask you, do you think the people of Stone are willing to defend themselves? But it sounds like they're barely able to get off their couch.
I bet we can make something work,
Okay,
though.
so all right, so you one of the guys he looks out his window and he sees a Serbian tank crossing the border, and you're like, oh, we got to do something. So what do you want to do, Ray? How do you want to go about first? Because the
Oh, gosh.
yeah, I mean that's the first thing you say is oh gosh.
Well, I feel like as the president, I probably should be not close to where the tank
Okay,
is just to keep
so
myself
I mean you're the
safe.
commander in chief also of Stone, so you're not just la presidente, but you're a la generalissima also.
I think that I probably would get someone to represent me and go sternly wag their finger at
Okay,
Serbia
so
to
you,
be
so you have a
like,
diplomat, yeah, and Croatia.
yeah,
Croatia's also they
oh,
they they
Croatia.
they wanted one of them to have the property, not the stoners, and so
I would
they're
be
upset
like,
about that.
Dobro jutro, Croatian.
Whoa, I don't know what that is.
It means hello. It means good morning.
Good morning. So you wish someone good morning while they're pointing guns at you. Got it.
Yep. And then I say, do widzenia. Have a good night.
Yeah, yeah. So you want to start an army. So what do you do? What do you want to do?
I don't really know a lot about starting an army,
Okay,
and
well
I
that's why I'm here
feel
to
like
teach you.
there's not a lot of naval, yeah, there's not a lot of naval
Well, you're
capacity
you're a, you're a
in the
landlocked
area that I'm
country.
at.
You're a landlocked country. So the good news is you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about starting a navy. And this is good. We're gonna just keep it simple. There's no air force. It's just gonna be a land battle. Okay. This. So we can do one of a couple things. You can ask for volunteers. So do you want to do that?
Okay.
Do you want to start a voluntary army?
Uh, No, not really. I feel like that's going to just be, no one's going to want to volunteer in stone.
Yeah, most of the stoners are fleeing. They are evacuating. They're trying to become refugees. They're saying, "Hey, man, I didn't sign up for this, bro." And they're putting the blunt down and they're walking as fast as their Birkenstocks and allow them to walk.
I think we better force them into it.
Yeah, so you're gonna draft them. That makes sense.
Yes.
So you hold a draft. What are your parameters? Who do you want to draft?
Well, I'm going to be stereotypical and say like men, like young men, but then also like women too could be more crafty. So I would draft women for the higher up positions
Okay,
and then men for like the front lines.
so you're gonna draft young men, let's say like 18 to 35, and then women of the same
Yes.
age or a little older.
Women could be, let's say 25 and older. No, let's say 30 and older for women, just because they kind of have grown up at that point. I don't want there to be any catty things going on. So 30 and older, but only for higher level officer
Okay,
positions.
okay. All right, so you've drafted all the young men. You're drafting the older women, and people come. People come because their homes have been invaded. Their way of life is at risk. Unfortunately, you discovered that don't really have much of training. The men are undisciplined. They not very physically fit, and they're a little upset that they feel this is kind of sexist that you now have men fighting and dying, but women are running things. Well, see, the problem is though when you have a conscript army, the ones because a voluntary army always has better morale than a conscript army. You can think of like, for example, people who were drafted in Vietnam versus people who volunteered for like the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so, more unfortunately, morale's gone down. Like I said, the men are complaining that they're doing all the fighting. Some women want to fight, and you tell them no, you're doing administrative stuff. So unfortunately, you have a little bit of a mini rebellion on your hands now, Rick.
Oh, damn it. Even if I give them weed?
They're they're claiming that they can get better weed. They want the war over, but you have good news. Your one of your generals comes up to you and says, "Hey, I have 4 offers from 4 different groups to help us fight, but you have to be okay with essentially hiring mercenaries." And all the mercenaries say, "Hey, we will train your people, we'll get them into shape, and we will also help fight. But you gotta choose one of the 4 mercenary groups." So, real quick, technically speaking, mercenaries are illegal. The United Nations Mercenary Convention was ratified, but only 35 countries have signed it. Some of these countries include countries like Ukraine, Italy, Germany, interesting enough, Saudi Arabia, which I think has hired private military contractors. And the other thing is, we're going to define what a mercenary and a private military contractor is real quick. So, what's really coming to you is mostly private military contractors. So, private military contractors are companies, usually private companies that you basically they submit contracts and you can hire them, and usually the way they define it is that they are doing some kind of like defense security thing, like even some organizations have hired them to like provide security or like for transportation or to guard certain areas. You're going a little one step further than that. Versus a mercenary is someone who explicitly for private gain joins a war, basically a gun for hire. But
Sure.
officially, you are using military contracts to help defend, let's say, your palace and a few other things. Uh, though unofficially, you are also hiring people to drill the stoner army, train them, lead it, and also provide additional forces. Now, typically, mercenary armies also don't have the best morale because they're not fighting for patriotic reasons. They don't give two shits if your country falls. They just want to get paid, and then also, if you can't pay them, they'll leave.
Right.
So money's a little tight right now. So I'm going to throw 4 offers at you, and I want you to choose one. I'm not going to tell you who they are. I just want you to choose, and then eventually we'll reveal who
Okay.
all 4 are. But I want you to choose. The first organization, very very flashy. You can tell these guys look badass. They have like PowerPoint presentations, videos, demonstrations. They show you some of the equipment. It looks like state-of-the-art stuff, body armor, really high-grade equipment, armored personnel carriers, latest, RPG military technology. These guys look the legitimate real deal. You look at the resume, and each one of these guys is badass. They are outside your price range, though, and that is option 1. Option 2 is also very organized. Their equipment, they say their equipment looks good, but you look at their equipment, it looks really old, like really, really old. But they talk about having a lot of recent experience, recent war experience, and they also allude to being very, very well connected. Also looks very, very badass. But they don't really want to talk about who their connections are, just that they're very, very well connected. Looks like a tough fighting force, and they can't give you their full forces because their full forces appear to be in a current engagement, but they will give you a discount, so you can't afford them.
Okay, so first one I could not
afford. You would have to spend most of your country's money on the first, but like they seem on the level, very badass, up to date. The second one talks a good game and it looks really good on paper. The guys look badass, but their equipment seems to be a little outdated, and they can't give you the full company because they are currently in engagement, but they can give you some guys. The third one is even cheaper. Looks a little shadier, but they also mentioned that they can help you on the agricultural side too. They have experience with that. Seem pretty badass. They have fought many wars in the 80s and 90s and seem pretty badass. Yeah, 80s and 90s, but still active today. They have guys all throughout from the organization.
Sounds like it's Afghanistan or Iran.
This group is not Afghanis or Iranians. I'll say that. The fourth group will actually work for free.
Ooh.
The only thing they ask is they get to establish residency in Stone. The other red flag, is they never seem to want to talk to you specifically. They talk to your other generals in the group, most of whom are men, but they never seem to want to talk to you specifically. But they will fight for free. They will train for free. They have equipment. They mentioned having acquired money and resources through a whole variety of means.
So this is my thought process right now. I am kind of wary to agree with number 2 because even though they are more affordable, it said that they were currently in another pre-engagement right now, which kind of worries me.
Would you like to know who since you're not going to choose number 2? Would you like to know who you did not choose then?
Sure.
You did not choose the Wagner Group. They are a Russian private military contractor who may or may not actually exist. There's a lot of debate.
I'm glad I didn't choose
them. There
them.
is a lot of debate whether they are actually a real private military country or actually a private army of Vladimir Putin himself and actually are Russian soldiers disguised as mercenaries. They are currently involved in the Ukrainian conflict. They are very notorious. They are led by a gentleman named Yevgeny Prigozhin, Lieutenant Colonel Dmitry Yutkin, and Colonel Konstantin Pikolov. They are allied primarily with the Russians, the Syrians, and the Libyans.
Yeah, so that was a good one to probably say nay to.
Yeah, they are mainly found in Ukraine and Syria. And there is a lot of controversy around them because, like I said, a lot of people believe they are just a front by Vladimir Putin to say, oh, they're mercenaries. And so when they commit war crimes and stuff, they are mercenaries and not actually part of the Russian government.
I see. Yeah, so that one's a no. So we have 1, 3, and
good
4
because if you had chosen them, Ukraine would also have declared war on you.
God damn.
So hey, Ukraine is not upset with you right now. Good job, Ray. You definitely avoided one of probably the second worst option, I would say.
I'm gonna say no to number 4 as well.
Oh, thank God you said no to number 4.
Because I just don't. I think it's kind of sketchy the fact that they wanna be citizens here or they want to lay their ground here, and also I don't like how they don't talk to me. I'm the president, they should be talking to me.
Good. So
no to number 4.
So officially they called themselves Malhama Tactical out of Uzbekistan, but in fact they are actually Islamic terrorists.
Okay,
so
there we go.
good choice on choosing them because they were actually Islamic terrorists who are affiliated with parts of Boko Haram and Al Qaeda. So I'm glad you didn't choose them. I'm glad you didn't choose them either, because they would have done what they did, but they would have also started an Islamic revolution in your country, and eventually it would have changed to like the Islamic Republic of Stone, and like yeah, it would have been bad. So I'm
And
glad.
no weed would be allowed there.
No,
It would just be a
no,
bunch of
no.
opium.
We would have been allowed. You would have been forced into exile, into Reneistan, your only ally.
Okay, so the first option was like one that was like way too expensive for
But
us, but
like
had
looks
pretty
very
state of the
legit.
art
Like their
equipment.
equipment looks badass. These guys look
Yeah.
badass. Like these guys look like really sleek. Like your generals are like they want you like, ma'am, our country's in danger. We have to spend every dollar we can on these guys. But you're like,
Okay, and
but
then what was the third
the
option
third
again? Remind
option,
me
the
what
third
that.
option, they still seem legitimate, but their equipment is also older, and they range from recent conflicts to earlier conflicts. But they also but they are cheaper, and they said they would be willing to help you with the agricultural side too. That they have connections to help you with that. Some of your generals want you to go with them because not only they're cheaper, but they promise that they would be able to help you because right now your country it basically has an embargo around it. You're completely surrounded. You can't send any goods out. You're not really
Hmm.
making any money.
This is what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say, for the good of the people of Stone, I think it's gonna be best to choose number
Number
one.
one. Okay.
And yeah, even though it's gonna put us in a little bit of debt, I think that hopefully this will take care of the problem, and then maybe with whoever helps us, we can make allies with them, and then
Okay.
work on our imports and
Okay.
exports.
So option number three wouldn't have been a bad choice. It probably the second best choice. It was the guys. It is mercenaries from Colombia, Nicaragua, Honduras, basically a bunch of Central and South American countries who have experience in the cartel wars and have been hired by other governments to fight in the Middle East. Basically, you have been fighting with basically Central and South American shady gray area, possible drug cartel guys.
Okay, not the
Not
best
not the
choice.
best choice, but it would have been better than the first two choices that you clearly said no to. Like,
The Russians and the Islamic terrorists.
basically, congratulations, you now have hired a U.S. private military corporation. We're gonna say,
Ooh, which
yeah.
one?
So that's why. So everyone you have hired is now as ex-American special forces or ex-American military. There's actually quite a few of them. Some obviously we all heard of Blackwater, and they now call themselves Academy, and they are part of the Constellus group now. There's other ones that are KBR, who used to be part of Halliburton. Just all sorts of other ones: Northbridge Services, Titan Company, Triple Canopy, which is another part of Constellus group. AirScan, who's been hired by US DoD, G4S, who's also been hired by DoD and the Energy Department. Other and some of these companies have been in the Middle East, have been in Iraq, Afghanistan, parts of South America, Iraq, even been hired by the Saudis. So these guys are all. If you're gonna go private military contract, I'm not gonna say which company because it doesn't really matter. But you've now
Hmm.
hired basically the best of the best. Basically, the three countries that seem to have the biggest presence in the private military contractors are the United States, the United Kingdom, and actually South Africa also as well. They have a company called Executive Outcomes, who will basically hire people from around the world to come work for their company, and they primarily operate out of Africa, like Sierra Leone, Angola, Congo, basically in all those conflicts. So I'm gonna say you hired basically one of those companies. We'll say American.
So basically, Slovenia and Croatia are shitting in their pants right now.
The Stone Army, basically like what we did to Saddam Hussein's Iraq army, like wiping them out, and then all of a sudden they're like, holy shit, we are making like crazy defense. And people are reporting out like out of nowhere, all of a sudden Stone has this high grade military equipment and like modern day RPGs, and all sorts of other countries are like, yeah, we haven't given them any equipment, we haven't given any resources. Renea stands like, look, I just have a couple AK-47s and this 9mm that I gave her. This is not my stuff. The good news is also logistically, you're easy to work with. You all speak all the same language. Everyone speaks English here. They respect whatever you say. They offer their input. They work.
Although I do have to say that people of Stone, they're fluent in English, but they also tend to rely heavily on Pineapple Express quotes.
Correct. Now the good news, and the good news is by hiring Americans, they get all these references and they laugh and they get it. So morale. The good news is morale is up. You've managed to
Good.
push back some of the Croatian Serbian invaders. It's kind of at a standstill right now. Like they were like looming outside your capital when guys paratrooped in and like blew away some of the invading army, and you're like, yeah, all right, things are kind of at a standstill now. They're drilling your
Good.
soldiers. Your soldiers' morale's up because they've won some battles. The people who've left
Mm,
have already left, and the people who are going to fight are fighting all the way. And they've even said, "Look, we're going to train the women too." And everybody, men and women, are proud stoners, are proudly defending their great nation of stone. There's just only
I love
one
that.
problem with the option you chose. Only one.
Oh, I'm gonna be in debt.
Your country's bankrupt.
Yeah.
Your country's bankrupt. What do you want to do? What do you do, President Ray?
Just want to smoke weed with my people.
So Serbia and Croatia have kind of both given up. They're saying, look, we're
Okay. And
losing.
I'm broke.
Look, you're broke. We've lost surprisingly too many men, fighting men, to this. We're going to negotiate a truce. You give us half your weed, and We'll leave you alone.
Okay, so they're not only saying that they'll chill and calm down, but they also want half my
They want
weed.
half your weed, or they want half of your agricultural output. They're gonna now lead in Korea. Actually, I don't even know this.
Do I get nothing in return?
You are no longer being invaded. You have you. They say, look, we will begin negotiating for. We will begin negotiating for.
Yeah, I would agree to that, but I also,
So cannabis
I
is decriminalized in Croatia. So
oh, there we go. I didn't know that. I wish I knew that when I was there. So my thing is, so yes, so sure, I'll agree to half of the agricultural rights to Serbia and Croatia, but I
yeah,
think that there needs to be some type of either alliance or some type of treaty that says that we cannot war with each other, kind of thing.
okay, yeah. There's all right. So it went from a ceasefire to a peace treaty, but basically both countries have agreed to stop shooting you. They give you the right to independence now, but they also basically how they do it is you can sell your product, but there's mandatory really high tariffs, and because of the two surrounding countries, there's now mandatory really high tariffs to get your product out there. So the economy does take a bit of a hit because weed from stone is now a lot more expensive. It's good stuff, but it's become a lot more expensive. So you take a bit of a hit, but at least now you're able to export, and also and also they require that so many Serbian and Croatian actors have to be in their movies. Kind of like how the Hollywood movies have a bunch of Chinese actors in them now just to appeal to the Chinese market. You now have to have a bunch of
Hmm.
Serbian and Croatian actors in all y'all's movies. And let's be honest, they're not as funny as the stoner actors.
No, I don't know. Well, actually, I would have to say the people of Croatia tend to be very funny. I've not been to Serbia. They're pretty funny, but in a very dry,
But
upfront
but
way,
the
which,
stoner movies were a lot funnier on their own. Now you
oh
yeah, yeah.
yes, it's a different type
It's a
of
different
humor.
type of humor, exactly. So good job on navigating that, because if you had joined in the Russian conflict, you would have if you had gotten the Wagner group, you would have become a Russian ally, and the whole Western hemisphere would have basically
Oh
embargoed you.
God.
So you navigated that well, and if you had joined with the like the Central and South Americans, they would have repelled the army, but eventually you would have basically turned into a drug state. And definitely
Hmm.
good job on not becoming the Islamic Republic of Stone, where you become a breeding ground of terrorism in Europe. So yeah, you did a pretty good job negotiating that, Ray. I would say strong work. You actually chose the best option.
Okay,
You
so I got them out of this pickle, but
yeah.
now I just created a couple other
Yeah,
pickles for
but you
my
definitely like
my
yeah,
stoners.
but like at the same time, the people of Stone, they elect you to another term because they realize
Good.
none of them could have gotten them through that, and they
Mm-hmm.
heard rumors about possible Russian influence, and they're glad you repelled the Russians. And Serbia is also like, yeah, we're glad that you didn't join up with Russia. And I
Mm-hmm.
think every side's glad that it is not the Islamic Republic of Stone now. And here's the Sharia
Mm-hmm.
law, and you've been exiled and or killed. You successfully
Cool.
navigated this conflict, and maybe we'll come back to Stone sometime in the future. Maybe,
And we
maybe
have to
not.
deal with their
Yeah,
economics.
maybe we like, how do we build up an economy again? How about that? How do we diversify
That's actually a
economy?
very good one,
Yeah,
Renee.
yeah, exactly. So I'm
Wow.
glad I taught
Huh.
you how
And
to.
you know what the best part about this is? I don't have to go into war
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now.
No, no, no. It's full peacetime. It's full peacetime. There's no more war.
Good.
You've gotten your independence, and
Peace and
yeah,
token.
peace and token. Exactly. The good people of Stone have elected you another term. You don't have term limits either. That you didn't write that in your constitution.
Oh, good. Good.
But
Awesome.
but
Perfect.
we also, what may happen is you notice that among the people of Stone, some of them start not just like, hey, we like our president, our lady president, we don't like her. They start calling you, instead of President Ray, they start calling you General Ray, and you start noticing a little bit of a
Oh.
cult of worship around you now. You survived, and you notice that the next movie comes out, you portrays you as like almost like this savior of the people, and you realize, am I going on the path also of becoming a dictator?
Doesn't sound so bad the way that
Yeah.
you're putting it,
Remember,
though.
you had a draft. You forced the people to do what you want. You don't have term limits. The people of Stone will do whatever you say.
It sounds like I could do a lot of really good stuff and a lot of really bad stuff depending on what kind of a person
The
I
next
am.
time on Stone, we'll find out what Ray does.
There's a lot of people who don't know who Mussolini is. I think that might be a good
And I
episode.
think
Like, there's a
there's a lot of people
lot of
who don't know who
people.
Cincinnatus is. Yeah,
Cincinnatus?
Roman dictator
I don't know who that is.
Cincinnatus. So
I don't know
the
him.
city of Cincinnati is named after him. Maybe we'll do an episode on him too. The most,
Uh,
the legitimately the most benevolent dictator. Actually, maybe we should talk about where the term dictator comes from, because he could be included in
ooh,
that.
that'd be a good
He
idea.
could be
Yeah.
included in that because he was a Roman dictator, and it meant a different thing, but it's similar. You had absolute power, but there was a
Mm-hmm.
limit to it. It was weird. You had absolute power, but there was a limit on your absolute power. That makes sense. But anyways, we'll save that for that episode.
Yeah.
So Ray, good job on fighting a war. Um,
Thank you. I'm exhausted.
you
Oh,
just walked away. You just walked.
a lot of
So
stress.
you just shook hands with the diplomats from Serbia and Croatia in the
We're
capital
chilling.
of Renaistan. It's called Dominant City, and they
Mm-hmm.
your mutual ally, and they said in a little bit the UN will recognize your independence. So good job of negotiating that.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Independent country recognized by the UN. I'm all about
And
it. We're starting at a good
exactly, and
spot.
you are now the first officially recognized. And our next episode, we'll start with a speech to UN where you declare your intentions for your country.
Okay, sounds good. Awesome. I'm excited. Well, thanks everybody, and I will be stoning it up in Stone with all the other stoners. And if you would like a country that is similar to that, then just come to Stone,
Yeah, come to
and
Stone.
you'll be walking around in circles for a while because it's not an actual
Yeah,
place.
exactly. Or more importantly, like we mentioned in the previous episode, you'll be arrested by the Croatian government.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
probably
yeah.
what will
Don't
happen.
actually go there. Anyways, all
Yeah.
right, guys. Hope we made you smarter. We hope we made you stupider. And one day in the
Yeah,
future, we'll
well,
go back to the magical country, the magical land of Stone.